came home and everybody else was gone, and they left our like bathroom door open, and he was like,
there we go. We're live.
trash.
Finally, got
We're
it
live?
working.
All
All
right.
right.
The Twitch stream got disconnected from the software somehow, and so I had to go back and reset all that. But we're finally good.
Love it.
Good. You're good.
Chris, Connor, welcome to the show.
What's up, man?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Indeed,
appreciate
indeed.
it. And before we get too deep in this, do you guys just want to introduce yourselves, where you're from, where you grew up? Tell us about it. Tell us a fun fact or something.
You go first.
Okay. My name's Chris. Right now I live in Aurora. Grew up like in Aurora or in the whereabouts of Aurora. And a fun fact about myself is my name's not actually Chris. That's my middle name. My parents named me James Christopher and started calling me Chris right away for some reason.
They're like that name's out.
Yeah.
Name's out, but it's on the birth certificate.
Yeah. It makes doing anything and everything at least a little bit complicated. Yeah. How about you?
I grew up. I grew up. Spent the first 6 years of my life on the east side of Aurora, and then I moved to a little podunk town called Yorkville. I was pretty much one of the only kids there that liked heavy metal and rock and roll and all that stuff. I was like one of five because everyone else was listening to either rap or country, so I was always on the outside of the music there. Fun fact about me is I used to be an EMT for 4 years. How about that?
A little bit of change of pace with the career now.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I was still doing music that whole time, but then I was like, you know what? I'm done patching people up. I'll just keep playing music.
So how did you guys first get involved in music, respectively?
So I have a cousin. His name's Justin. He is a bit older than me. Growing up, I definitely had like a little brother complex with him, where I was like, I want to do things Justin likes and like things Justin likes. And Justin was really into like punk and hardcore and like all those subgenres floating around with punk music and hardcore music and some metal music. And he got me into bands like NoFX and Rancid and Bad Religion and showed me things like that when I was too young to really even buy music myself. And he actually bought me my first 2 CDs ever. He bought me Ocean Avenue by Yellow Card and Hello Rockview by Less Than Jake. And then we would just be like listening to music in his car whenever I'd get to go visit. And he started showing me music with screaming and stuff in it, like Throwdown. And
he like slowly was just like, I can't break him into the hard shit.
Yeah, like his parents will say no if I just start showing him like stuff like this right away. He started showing me stuff like that. And for the next like 5 years or so, as I started being able to like buy my own music or get my own music, it's funny, I would have like crazy deja vu while listening to stuff in the car and be like, I know I've heard this before, and then find out Justin showed it to me when I was like 6. And like,
how much older is Justin than you?
That's a good question. I don't actually know how old he is off the top of my head.
I know he's in his 30s.
He's in his 30s for sure. Justin is definitely a big reason that I'm into the scene and the genre of music that I'm into. And he definitely like laid the foundation for me to get into this type of music. And I always loved attention, so I naturally wanted to be like the front man, and learned how to do the screaming thing and took vocal lessons and all that good stuff to really like hone my voice and try to develop myself. So that's like how I got into it.
I wasn't nearly as fortunate. I didn't have anyone that was showing me any like sick up and coming bands or anything like that. I was the oldest in my family. None of my cousins listened to heavy metal or rock until much later in their lives. So I was kind of cascading. I just listened to anything that was poppy or anything that was like rap. When I was like in grade school, I was just listening to whatever was popular. So at the time that was like 50 Cent and Eminem and all these like OG rappers, dude.
I was trying to like picture that.
I was just trying to fit in. I didn't fucking know anything about music. And then I don't know how old I was. I don't know how many people know this. I don't know how old I was, but my aunt and uncle got me the first Creed CD. Can you take me? Yeah, that song was like the anthem for like a month. I was like, this shit's fucking bumping. And I was like, I couldn't have been more than like 7. Like I didn't know shit. And so that kind of started a little bit of the rock. I started to like hear stuff on the radio. I would always listen to what my parents were listening to, which was like classic rock. So like I grew up listening to like Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and Fleetwood Mac, all those classic bands. And then probably when I was in like 5th or 6th grade, I got the Black Album. I got Metallica's The Black Album. I got for Christmas. I got Kiss's Greatest Hits and Guns N' Roses' Greatest Hits. So like the epitome of like, yeah, rock and roll, and fucking that just kind of cascaded. And throughout like middle school and going into high school, I was obsessed with like 80s thrash metal. I thought that was like the epitome, that like you couldn't get any better than like Ride the Lightning or Injustice for All, Master. I was like that shit is right there. And then I started. I got Pandora once I was like towards the end of high school. Yeah, I know, right? Big throwback. I got into Pandora, and that kind of opened up. I started to find these new bands like Killswitch Engage. I found bands like Seosin and all these other bands, and I took me a while to really get into them until finally I saw that Killswitch Engage was coming through town with this lineup was sick. This was like the show that just like totally spun me into heavy music, like really heavy music. And so I went and saw Killswitch Engage, The Word Alive, Miss May I, Darkest Hour, and a Final.
Recording in progress.
Woo! Holy shit.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. So we went to that show, and that just like changed my whole life. I got obsessed with Miss May I just spun into metalcore. Chris showed me Parkway Drive when we finally met. And you know, I just totally cascaded through there. And so, you know, to the point now where like I have too many bands that I listen to, and yes, it's tough to go back to some of the stuff. And, you know, so yeah, I now I'm kind of like the Justin in his scenario where like I show other people these bands and, you know, get them into that music. But it, you know, I never had anyone being like, bro, check this shit out, man.
It's actually really like Parkway Drive is one of those bands that I had one of the deja vu moments.
Or from there, I mean, how did you end up picking up guitar? Was it or bass? Sorry.
Oh, so I played it. Yeah, I guess. Sorry. So in like the 6th grade, I wanted to start playing guitar. I got like a PV. I got like a PV starter kit. Where, like you can buy it for like $150. You can buy like the little 100-watt amp and the starter guitar with a cable, and started taking lessons. And then I wanted to be in a band, but I didn't fucking know what I was doing. So I finally got, then probably my sophomore year in high school, I think, I got my first real guitar. It was a studio Les Paul Gibson with humbuckers. I mean, it's like it was like, totally don't mean to talk shit on Gibson, but let's just be real here. That company's kind of gone to the shitter in the last 10 years. And I feel very fortunate because I got one of the last guitars before they started to just completely dip in quality. And I still have that guitar. So I continued with lessons throughout high school, started a band in high school. Guess what? It was a Metallica ripoff band. We were called Blackened Death, which was literally a mixture of the song Blackened and Creeping Death. And we just, yeah. And we were awful.
That's it. We nailed it.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I played that type of music, got out of high school, joined a kind of like a shitty little punk rock band, and then one night after our last show in that band, we were called Without a Sound. And the last night that we played a show, I actually met Chris, and we ended up parting ways with the singer. Chris stepped up. We changed the whole band name, the whole dynamic, everything. And then that was a band called Known by Numbers that we worked for a while, and then we finally came into Erabella.
We rebranded like 3 separate times.
Yeah.
So, and for the, your professional training, are there teachers out there? So I grew up in a classical background. Both my parents are band directors, or were band directors, retired now.
Lucky you.
Right. Well, some days. But you go to high school, and they're not exactly teaching you how to be in a metal band or hardcore style or anything like that.
Definitely not.
So were you able to find somebody to help you do that? Because it's real easy, and you hear stories almost every few years about so and so had to have surgery on their vocal cords because they got the polyps growing on them. I mean.
Oh yeah, no. I did the. So I feel like also with the Justin stuff. Justin lives in Texas and has never that made it really difficult because it's not like I could just go meet his friends that were into the same music too. It's really just like I had him. And I was sent to a private school, a private military school, small class, and like he said, with kids like in his age group and stuff growing up, there weren't really any kids around that were into the same style of things that I was into and exploring and things like that. So, and I didn't really know how to get involved in like the local scene at age 15 by myself too,
Yeah, that was one of the biggest problems for me too, is that like where I was from, like nowhere, I shouldn't say nowhere near Chicago, but I was like an hour or so away from Chicago. So like, while all these bands and people in the Chicago scene were like exploring and doing all these crazy shit and being exposed to new sounds and new different local bands, stuff like that, there was none of that going on out by us.
Right.
Like we thought we were the shit for where we were at.
Yeah. So basically, I like YouTube and Google were my best friends. There's a lady by the name Melissa Cross that is also like super popular in the whole like Warped Tour scene of music, of metal and hardcore and punk, where she is like a screaming instructor. She has a couple DVDs. I got those, and those helped a little bit. But the voice is also such like a weird instrument, because it's not like seeing somebody play a guitar and having their fingers placed incorrectly or something like that. You can't just be like, oh, you're holding it wrong, or like something like
quick fix.
Yeah. So it really is just a lot of visualization, and a lot of kind of communicating with yourself. And am I at my limit today? Can I try this new thing? How do I feel about that new thing? How did my body feel about that new thing? It's a lot of just guesswork, really, and just guessing, trial and error, and a lot of error.
Yeah, a lot of that was the same for me too. Yeah. Like when I was in that band in high school, I was the front man, and through time I learned to like clean up my voice and sound like much cleaner but in high school, man, it was all about the rasp. I was all like, yeah, okay. Like I was all about that shit. And again, there was no like I was in guitar lessons at the time, but I didn't take voice lessons until I was like 21, 22. And I took those for about 3, like, you remember when I started doing that? I took those for about 3 years.
Yeah.
Because it was funny. They had suggested politely, they were like, hey, have you ever thought about vocal lessons? And I was like, no. And so
what are those?
Yeah. So I found it. So this is kind of where I have that like cool, like, you know how some people are like, yeah, I got taught by fucking Kirk Hammett was taught by like some legendary guitarist. I can't remember who it is, but I know he was like a legendary guitar player. I kind of had my little moment with that, with my voice, my vocal coach. She was like one of the opera coordinators for like major operas that came through Chicago. And I would go to her apartment once a week, and we would do 45-minute sessions. And through that, like, I was able to expand my range. I was able to figure out like, you know, where harmonies and stuff sit. So it really was this big eye opener for me. I wish I would have done it, you know, obviously earlier. But
it's crazy. Always. And it's wild to the stuff you can apply from things like that into other aspects. Like I did the voice lesson thing too, and I was like trained in like to do like classical stuff, like you were talking about as well. I learned how to sight read and things like that, and then was taught how to project like opera. So then I had to do opera for a while and Broadway stuff, which is insane to think about. And it's just crazy how relating stuff like that to like screaming and basically just like yelling and learning how to apply those methods and elements of that practice and that instruction to like this harsh, completely different style of vocals and see what can and can't carry over. And it's actually surprising the amount of stuff that does carry over from stuff like that into like metal vocals and hardcore vocals for you to do it like properly.
Right. And
Well, it's funny because like I was talking actually to somebody today because I actually showed someone at work our band and they were like, dude, the question that I always get, I'm sure you probably always get it too, is like where they're like, does your vocalist throat or voice suck after that? And it's like, no, like just like singing, there is a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it.
Not unless you're sick.
Or you're sick, but that's neither here nor there. But like, you're like Chris was saying, your voice is a muscle, it's an instrument. So like it has to be fine-tuned. You got to constantly keep up with it, to the point where like you can do a full set, of harsh vocals, screaming style, get off stage and still be able to talk perfectly clear. Like, there's just a right way and a wrong way to do it.
And just from the outside, I've never had the desire to be in a band. Professional Wallflower through all of high school and most.
Yeah, that's a cool band name, Professional Wallflower.
That is pretty sick. Yeah, fuck, dude.
But I never thought about opera or Broadway translating into any style of band for that matter until I think his interview. I want to say Howard Jones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that dude can belt.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, so that's why he can just knock it out of the ballpark.
Yeah. And he has that like, I don't know if deep is the right word, but his voice is definitely lower than a lot of people in that genre. And he was still able to, like make his low vocal register soar a bit more to make to like offset that. And yeah, he's really talented. Howard Jones is incredible.
So how did you guys end up meeting each other? And I know you kind of glossed over, there's a band before, but how did Erabella come to be what it is now?
So we met through Austin, our bassist.
He was already in that punk rock band with me, and he like I said, the last night of that show, the last show we played that night, he introduced the two of us.
Yeah.
Or all of us.
Me and him went to the same community college. Then we just started hanging out because we would always wear the same like band shirts, and like that was obviously like, oh, love that band. Started talking about it, started hanging out, became friends. Would go to like their shows here and there, and I wasn't in a band, had never been in a band, just kind of did the vocal thing, I guess as a hobby. And
you mentioned before that you wanted to be a front man. Was that still in your back of your mind at this point? Were you searching for a band?
I was searching for stuff. It was one of those things again where it was like, I don't even know how to meet people or how to really like get into this community.
You just got to corner them at the merch booth.
Exactly.
Away from you.
Exactly. I got really lucky that Austin was like in a class with me, and we just hit it off because we were both just like two awkward kids that had nothing else to talk about other than like, I know the words on your shirt, so like let's talk about that.
That's how it always goes, right? Like two metalheads meet each other, and they're like I saw this funny ass video on the internet like a while ago of like these two dudes that walk into a gas station, and one's wearing like an Exodus shirt, the other's wearing like a Slayer shirt, and they see each other and they both stop and they're like, and they instantly like become best friends. Like that's totally how that shit works.
Yeah. So for Erabella, to like how that became a thing, we all started jamming together. I auditioned, and we had basically like me, Connor, and Austin. We had a different guitarist, different drummer, and went through a bunch of drummers. We were that other band that he mentioned. And as we kept developing and brought in these new members, especially when we found Giovanni, our lead guitarist, our sound, and we basically got a lot more focused. Instead of being scatterbrained of, let's try this and this and this, he really brought
like a focus.
He really brought a focus to us. Yeah, a direction for what we wanted to do and what we could do and what we were good at.
And everyone started to really step up their skills at that point.
Yeah,
the writing process has got a little more fluent control.
Right. And it was at that point we were looking at our band name, our aesthetic, how we were presenting ourselves, how we were marketing ourselves. And we decided it wasn't really fitting how we were sounding and where we wanted to go and the bands we wanted to play with and the things we wanted to accomplish. So then we just did a full rebrand.
While we were in the studio recording the first record.
Yeah.
That's when the rebrand happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this or not, and maybe it's not the same now, but Facebook is a bitch of a time to change any kind of, if you have a certain amount of followers on Facebook, to change your name from something to another thing is a real nightmare. And you have to appeal multiple times. You have to put the same appeal in, and then they don't tell you if it goes through, if it gets denied, nothing. So we're in the middle of the studio. It's 1 week into a 2-week long studio time, and literally we opened up our phones and it had changed.
Yeah.
We were
after trying for about a month. Yeah.
Because they have no customer support. There's no customer service.
Yeah. So my Facebook page, I've just kept the same, but I think I've changed the name on it 3 or 4 times over the different iterations, because the whole project didn't start as a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the first 2 years, I had maybe 14 likes, but I really like this name or some variation of this name, so I'm going to publish it and I'm going to post something, because then I have a record of saying, yep, this is mine on this date.
Right.
Yeah, right.
If you come after me. And the name change, God, it sucks.
Oh, it's annoying. So annoying. I mean, thankfully, Erabella works and it sounds nice, and we'll never have to change it ever again.
That was really nice, and it was one of the biggest problems was finding a name that wasn't already taken, because music is so saturated now with bands, band names, and variations of band names that it's hard to find certain stuff. And in fact, one of our homie bands, they just got
a cease and desist.
Yeah, and they were blowing up. They were on the up and up, and they just got signed, and they were charting in France, and they were doing all these really good things. And some no-name artist that had their same name before they became a band, she had put out music first, but this band, our friend's band, had tens of thousands of followers on Spotify and streams and all this stuff, and she had 80 followers on Spotify and 20 likes on Facebook and stuff like that. Sends them a cease and desist, wins in a court battle.
But it's because she got that trademark first. And we actually, when we were picking this name, we were looking for matches, seeing if anybody had it already. And the only thing we found, I think it was me. I was only other person is a weird a cappella trio of 16-year-old girls.
It's the Dixie Chicks. Literally, it's and they're called the Arabellas.
Yeah.
I said I wanted to play a fucking show with them. I thought that would be sick.
Yeah. And then we got the copyright, and it was okay, well, it's their problem now. Obviously, we don't care enough to go after anybody.
Yeah, why would we send them there? We looked at their page. They're doing it for fun. They like to play for, why would we do that to them?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we were just we got it. It's ours now. It's fine. We don't have to worry about that happening.
How did you guys come up with the name in the first place? Were you just pulling words out of a hat and stuff?
Kind of.
We were honestly we're looking at other stuff and trying to find for what fit us perfectly. We were looking at things we liked. So I know he looked at comic book stuff. I looked at anime stuff. And eventually I was playing, I just got a PS4 and I was playing the newest Uncharted game, the last one. And he was looking for something from Marco Polo, an explorer. And I was pirate ships, that's a good one. And I just started Googling pirate ships, and Erabella was a pirate ship. And I was fuck yeah. It was just
wasn't it ARA though?
Yeah, it was ARA. Yeah. And then we changed it to ERA, and found out that in Spanish and in Italian, that translates to "she used to be beautiful." And for our emo selves, that was like
we were
perfect.
Like, fuck yeah,
amazing.
dude.
That's amazing.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah. That's where that came from.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. That's where that came from.
I just want to back it up real quick. Connor, for you and Austin, did you say when you were first meeting Chris and you're doing the different tryouts? I mean, did you have a sound or an idea of where you wanted to take the band and what you were looking for in a vocalist?
Nothing that was nothing that was concrete, because at the time of Without a Sound disbanding and Known by Numbers, which was what we were before Erabella, you know, when that transition was going on, I was very big into Bullet for My Valentine. So I had that kind of sound in my head. I was like, let's do that. That's like a modern day Metallica. Still hadn't lost that shit yet. That was like, that was like a modern day, Metallica, and they were doing really well, and their sound was really good and catchy, and I wanted to do that. And then Austin kind of had a bit of a different idea.
And then I had a completely different idea.
Yeah, and then we didn't have any other vocalist. I was gonna do all the vocals, and then that's when Austin was like, "Well, hey, I know this guy Chris. Let's bring him in." And we brought him in. He did a couple runs. I think we played like a Day to Remember cover or something, and then something else. And we were like, "Yeah, you're in."
Was it like the clouds part and the sun comes shining down? Like this is the guy.
Yeah. That's kind of how it was, because Austin and I had been in Without a Sound, the band prior. I was in it for about a year. He was only in it for a couple months, and so him and I bonded immediately over heavy metal. Like he was like, one of his favorite bands is Iron Maiden, and I was like, dude, I love Iron Maiden. Just instantly gravitated. So once that punk rock band disbanded, we were like, let's make a metal band, dude. Let's like do this. And that, and again, around that same time was when I was really getting into metalcore. And so when Chris kind of came into the picture, it was kind of a culmination of like, all right, we're a metalcore band. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's basically that. And he would like talk about Bullet and things like that. And I would be like, all right, that's cool. But like, here's that, but it's like sad. Check it out.
Bullet's still cool. Bullet's still
like,
cool.
This is a band called Silverstein. Like, yeah, stuff like that, basically. Yeah, it was interesting when we met, because I didn't know what they really wanted either. I was just wanted to be in a band.
We truthfully didn't either. We had like a rough vision, but we really didn't know.
Nobody knew what we wanted to do. We thought we knew what we wanted to do. And in hindsight, we had no idea what we wanted to do. Funny how that works.
Were you guys playing together and just doing covers and stuff before you started putting that first album together?
We did two. The first show we did like all covers and then two originals.
Yeah, we did what he said, 3 covers, 2 originals, and like slowly worked the covers out as we wrote more music. Because we played, I think, 1 show and then lost the drummer that we had at the time.
Like a week and a half
later. And like, drummers are hard. They're hard to find. So we spent the next like months on months looking and figuring it out and like trying to write music without a drummer, while we also didn't really know what our writing process was yet either. So really, we had like a 9-month span in between our first and second show, which is hilarious. Like really almost a full year went by. Yeah, really that like gave us a lot of time to try to figure out what we wanted to do. And I think it helped. It helped us get through a lot of like bullshit that would have taken a lot longer to get through had we had all of our members and were playing shows the whole time. So I think it worked out as good as it could have.
Well, according to the internet, you guys formed officially in 2017.
Right. That's
Erabella did.
That's when the rebrand happened. Yeah. So like 2017 is when we switched everything and like figured out really what we wanted to do with ourselves and as a group.
Big time.
Then how long have you guys been playing together then?
Since like us two, since 2014, I think.
7 years?
Yeah.
I was 21. Yeah, 7 years for
7
sure.
years.
Damn.
So putting the first, so you guys have 2 EPs out now.
Mm-hmm.
Putting that first one together, what was that like? I mean,
it was weird because we were still didn't really know what we were doing. We just knew we wanted to be more professional with how we approached everything.
Yeah.
So we have a friend, Jimmy, who worked with the producer for that EP, Josh Schroeder, and we looked up his like catalog of everything he had worked on, and saw names like The Plot and You and In Heart's Wake and things like that, and those were huge bands to us. So we were like, if this guy says yes, that's incredible, because that means it's a guy that had his hands in all these albums that we really appreciate and respect, and he'll be able to help us develop and go further. And we hit him up and we sent him a song that we had written before Giovanni had joined. And he was like, I don't know. This is kind of like a hodgepodge of things.
Oh, he trashed it. Let's be real here. He straight up was like,
he was polite
this is
about it,
not good.
But like, he was like,
you guys need work.
Need work, yeah. And then we were like, okay, well, that was from a bit ago. This is what we have now. And he's like, this is definitely a step in the right direction. And this is something that has a bit more potential.
It was actually the song Cracks. That's we sent him, if you listen to the first record, I think the first track on that record is Cracks.
It was like the demo version.
We had sent that to him and he was like, yo, this is so much better. What's the timeline like from this first song you sent me and the second song? We were like only a couple months, and he was like, all right. Yeah. And that's what enticed him. And then we started working out details.
Yeah. And went and worked with him for a couple weeks. And that was really cool in and of itself. The fact that somebody like that said yes. And then being able to go do that and be in a professional studio environment was incredible. It pushed us a lot harder and helped take out a lot of guesswork for us, because before that we didn't know exactly how much of it was going to be on us as a band and how much of it was going to be on the producer. And it helped us figure out that relationship so we could develop even further after that would be released. Josh was great. He gave us a lot of direction, gave us a lot of pointers, and yeah, it was awesome. It was a great experience.
Do you guys ever get on the other side of the recording studio, on the technical side, working, the engineering side?
That's more Austin.
Yeah, I was going to say, outside of our own demos, not really. But we do work, like Austin is the main handler of that stuff. So we'll all come up with ideas or work on whatever we're working on separately. And then whenever we meet up again the next time, he'll help put it together for us and really kind of tighten it up so that it can be tightened up again the next time, Yeah.
And how has it gotten easier then for you on your most recent one that came out this year, the Familiar Gray?
Yeah. That was amazing. So we got to go.
That came together exponentially better than Kingdoms did.
Right. And I think it's because, like I talked about before, Kingdoms gave us an insight for how much was like on us. So when we were able to go work with Bo, we knew what was going to be like expected of us that time around. So that made the process exponentially better because we knew what we were supposed to be doing. And again, we were working with a different like professional who also like knew what he was doing and had also been doing it. Both those guys have been doing what they've been doing for 10 plus years, and working with Bo was mind blowing to me because he's a guitarist in Seosin and he writes pretty much all their music. And he's
like the brainchild behind a lot of
I listened to that band since I was 12 years old. Being able to drive across the country, he's based out of California. So the drive in and of itself is a lot different than the first time because Josh lives in Michigan. So 6 hours compared to 30 hours. It was incredible. Seeing and hearing everything that he did with our music was baffling. And
even like the time, like when we would go back to, we stayed at an Airbnb and like each day, his process was much different than Josh's process.
Right.
Which kind of made it seem that like every producer's probably got their own style and process and way they do things. So like we would leave the studio and he would have like a rough mix, whether it was instrumental or it had rough vocals over, and we get it back and be like, holy shit, we really got something here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. He would give us homework. He'd be like, all right, this is like what we did today, and this part's cool, this part's go home and try to think of something for it, and I'm gonna try to think of something for it here, and we'll come with our ideas tomorrow, see what we got. And yeah, it was cool. He was great. We don't have enough good things to say about Josh, and we really don't have enough good things to say about Bo either. They're both fantastic at what they do. We got to we didn't have a drummer actually when we went to work with Bo, and so originally we thought, oh, we're probably just gonna have to program, do that whole thing. Then we were talking to him about it.
Day one we showed up, and he like had a plan for the drums and everything.
Yeah. Well, we talked to him about it a few weeks like via email.
I guess yeah.
And he let us know about this guy named Alan. And Alan's in a band called Vies and Hail the Sun, and just a crazy talented drummer. Bo,
super cool dude,
great guy,
great dude.
Yeah, that's like when it really counts. We got really lucky because all the people we deal with that like have a huge impact on our like music and have their hands in our band and in our product and who we are have all been like super great, super incredible. And yeah, Alan was fantastic. Bo basically said like, he's amazing at what he does. He'll be able to like give his spin on things, give like a drummer's perspective on things, and be able to like tweak things that you have. And he'll be able to hook you guys up with a good price. And he did. And then Bo took it upon himself. We didn't know this, but so Bo has like a home studio. He converted and finished his garage so that it's a really, really nice studio room. And he's like, oh, we're not doing drums here. And we were like, oh God, we're already like dirt poor from all of this. We can't afford to go to another studio and pay for it. And he's like, oh no, I took care of it. It's fine. And we were like,
you're like, what?
Why?
yeah, exactly. It was like, dude, you don't know us. You didn't need to do that. Yeah. We're not special.
Yeah.
Like,
and then we showed up to the studio and saw
it was Signature Sound Studio in San Diego.
Yeah, and we showed up and saw like a gold or platinum, whatever, Enema of the State from Blink-182 on the wall, and like their self-titled album on the wall, and like the Used had recorded there. Cher recorded there, and like seeing all these pictures, and we were just like, we can't even believe we're here right now. And like nonetheless recording music here.
What's going on?
Yeah, right.
Pretty much,
right,
yeah. That's kind of how it was.
Yeah.
It was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
where
what's
are
happening?
we? What's going on right now?
Yeah. It was incredible. That's definitely like benchmark moment for sure, where it was like, wow, we're like creating something here where all these amazing bands and performers and artists also created something here. Like,
and it seemed like the juices just flowed, like just always. Like when, like again, that day in the studio, we took it song by song, part by part. Alan would step up, and Bo would just say, "Hey man, why don't you give me a two-steppy part right here?" And he would just, and like he would really just go to town on it, and it would be like, "Yeah, you nailed that. That's perfect. We really don't need to do a second take.
Right?
Fucking flawless."
Yeah, crazy. And it really translates. Like the drums on that EP sound phenomenal.
Yeah.
Everything on that EP sounds phenomenal.
Very proud of it.
Yeah, super proud of it. And then COVID came along and kind of derailed things a bit.
Yeah, that was the unexpected.
Yeah.
We had to pay for all that success, one way or the other. Not just dollar amounts. No, we had to pay for that exponentially more than that.
So how do you guys hold up during COVID? I mean, were you still able to get together at all, safely, of course, or at least
kind of
and bounce ideas around, or even jam?
Yeah. So we would, for a while, we wouldn't meet up, because we were take it seriously, like we all like self-quarantine, isolated in our respective where we lived. Then as like jobs started opening back up again, like I'm just a server outside of the music thing. So when it went into phase whatever, and it was like outdoor dining only, we started to think, well, I mean, we all have to go to work now and see people anyways. We might as well start meeting up again, and like so we can stay sharp and stay creative. And yeah, we started going back to our like weekly practices, social distanced and everything. Um, and I think honestly, on top of keeping our like musical senses sharp, it honestly just helped our mental health immensely more than anything. Seeing like our friends again, I think that was the biggest helper and helped us get out of like our collective creative rut, you know? Because at the beginning of lockdown, I can't lie, it was frustrating because none of us had any drive or motivation to do anything because we had this game plan for the Familiar Gray to come out. We had a show lined up with all of our friends. We had a label and a management agency. We had like a team behind us. We had a plan, you know, and it just got blown up.
But that's not, and like it sucks for us. And we, for a while there, we were taking it personal because,
right.
this was something that we had worked and grinded our asses for months and truthfully years. And, to see it come apart by something that was completely out of our control,
right.
And then at the same time, we had to remind ourselves that it's not personal. This is happening to everyone. And there are bands and groups and people that, are affected much worse than we've been affected by it. It really was a big downer that we had all these plans and these, we were getting booked for big boy tours and we were, working on stuff like that. And just to see it all kind of be essentially ripped away from us was, it for a couple months there, it really killed our motivation. It killed our drive. It took a big old shit on everything. And we kind of just fell into this slump and, cause we weren't meeting up, we weren't writing, we weren't doing anything like that. It was just this, very, very low point in our career. And
we couldn't even put out the EP that we worked super hard on that we were really excited for.
Yeah, that got pushed. I mean, that kept getting pushed back. Partially in part because the distribution company, Orchard, which is I think located in the UK, they were having problems. Like they were shut down and having problems, so they couldn't distribute and get our music out to Spotify and Apple and all these other places. And the one thing that actually came out on time was the first single, "I Wish You Weren't Welcome," which came out in March. That was the one thing that actually came out on time and went according to plan. Yeah. Everything else was just like a fucking Hail Mary. Let's try this, push it back here, do this, that, and the other. We're actually doing the EP release show that we were supposed to do over a year ago.
Back in May of 2020.
In August. So we're doing that show in August as like a makeup rain check. But the thing is that, so this record, The Familiar Gray, came out and, any success that it's had is completely online. We haven't been able to tour, play shows, sell CDs, promote it in the way that we would have normally promoted, that any band would have normally promoted it. It was all online. And when it's just all online, you can only push something so far and still have it, be relative, because the way music is taken in nowadays, you can hear the best album of your life and be obsessed with it, but you're only gonna be obsessed with it for about 2 weeks, maybe, a couple weeks, maybe a month or whatever, depending on how good it is. And then, you shelf it and move on to the next thing. And that's, what we were terrified of and afraid of. And, we pushed it for as long as humanly possible. It
still do.
Still do. We have a new single coming out later this summer, which I'm pretty excited for. And then, the plan is to just, again, the way music is taken in now has kind of changed the game a little bit, to the point where, in order to stay relevant and continue to stay in front of people's faces, you need to continuously put out content, new music, and all that other stuff. And, because we don't have, again, COVID ruins everything. We don't have anyone backing us anymore. We don't have anyone funding things anymore. So the plan is now just to put out singles on a fairly regular, continual basis, on a couple month basis, to really just keep things relevant, keep people coming back. And I think that you're going to see more bands and artists do things that way. They're already
it's
doing
already kind of like a transition like that. It really, even just the process of doing that single that he's talking about was way different than the other 2 EPs. Because we did it with Bo again, but we did it over Zoom. We went to our friend who's a producer, and basically he just tracked it for us, and Bo was live on Zoom, and we would go over takes, and then he would say, okay, let me dip out for an hour. I'm going to work on this, and you guys should work on this, and we're going to meet back up and see how things go. And we just did that periodically for 2 days, I think. Just checking in with each other for like 15-minute periods of time every hour. Yeah, it was super, super different and strange. Still fun, not as fun, but yeah, had to do what you had to do,
Out of curiosity, this is totally off topic, but out of curiosity, how did you find out about us? Oh shit!
Yeah.
You were at the show? Damn, I feel like an ass bag now.
No worries.
Did you? I thought. Oh shit! I'm sorry. I thought that was somebody different. I apologize.
I found out about you through TikTok because there's a guy
Really?
I actually hook you up.
It worked.
Yeah, kind of. Brandon on there, who I sat down with before the show last week, and shout out to Tim. He did a reactor, shared, hey, 5 songs that I like, something like that, and one of the bands on there was Victims. I'm like, oh, okay. These guys are pretty fucking cool. And then started listening more and more, and then all of a sudden they're like, we're doing a show in Chicago. It's like, I haven't been to a live show in 18 months. I'm crawling up the fucking malls right now. I need something.
Yeah.
It's 6 hours away, but the hell, I'm going. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was there, and I found an email for for Victims, and shot an email off to them like, hey, I'm bringing my recording equipment down, doing another show. Do you guys want to be on it? And I tried to find everybody else on the ticket. The only other one I could find was Strangled, and like the day before I was going to email them, they announced that it was going to be their last show. I'm like, well,
right. They were
that off,
so
and then I'm just brought in a pile of business cards. I'm like, well, I'll see who I can corner over at the merch booth. Which is how I bumped into Chris.
Okay. Makes sense.
Well, actually, he was you were over at Capital Vices.
Capital Vices, yeah. I was running there as well. They were up on stage, yeah.
Then you moved over, and I'm kind of disappointed. Nobody down there has 3XL shirts.
Yeah,
the industry needs to change that.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, I saw you guys up on stage. I'm like, these are pretty good. These guys are really good. I'm then started listening.
You saw us. You saw us at like a 75% full force too. 3 of us were very sick.
Don't want to say, don't worry, none of us had COVID. Yeah, we're all vaccinated. But so to give it a little bit of a backstory, like a week prior, there's a really bad like flu cold going around right now, and it's not COVID. It's just like a shitty
bug. Yeah, it's just a bug.
Shitty summer flu bug.
Yeah,
and I got it bad. And
he came to practice and said like it's just allergies, and like it's the summer, so.
That's what I thought.
I believed him.
That's what it felt like. I was stuffed up. I had drainage, and I was like, "It's allergies. I've done this plenty of times. It's fine."
Who gets the flu in the summer?
And I got Chris. I got our drummer sick, and then I later on found out I got our guitarist Giovanni sick. Yeah. And the only one that was really able to dodge it was Austin. So Chris and I are both singing with throat lozenges in our mouths, and
it was one of those shows where the sound guy goes, all right, give me a check. And I gave him like the check 1, 2, check, and did that one check. And I was like, oh no. It's like when you do it once and I think I learned, I listened to Shane from Silverstein's podcast, and he just interviews other vocalists and talks to them about like their pre-show ritual and stuff like that. And I think it was Brian from Knocked Loose said he doesn't warm up. He just goes into a room and he does one scream. And he's like, I know off of that one scream exactly how the rest of my night's going to go. And that's what it felt like. I knew exactly how the set was going to go. I was like, shit, I don't know what I'm going to do.
It went well enough. I think we were able to kind of recover and push a little bit because everyone came up and had nothing but good things to say. So it must have sounded way better out front of house than it did in our in-ear mix. So that was very reassuring to hear because I got off stage and was like, oh no. And but coming to find out things went fine. So
yeah.
Huge. I'm an audiophile. there can be no such thing as too many speakers in my house one day.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when I go to the venues that like the bar, like the WC Club, and
Yeah.
it's their bar, and they have to do music, and then I see, I always wonder, like, is the sound guy working for a band or the bands, or is he just the venue guy? How's this gonna go? Because I've gone to some shows where they're awesome fucking bands, and the sound quality was just absolute horseshit. It's like,
Oh yeah, I think we've all been to shows like that where you're like, I've seen this band before, and they don't sound like that. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
So when I first walked in, I'm like, well, I mean, he looks like he knows what he's doing, but well, let's see.
He does. So that guy used to book, or not book. He was the sound guy for I don't know if you remember Mojo's in Joliet before it became the Forge. So there was a club it's now called the Forge, sick venue. But before that, it was called Mojo's, and he was their primary sound guy. And for every big tour package that came there, he was doing sound for them, and they were crushing it. So I think he did a pretty good job that night.
No, and actually, that was my first time in Chicago for a show. I've been in Chicago since before I could actually see over the top of a table. Went down there. I grew up in Deerfield and Springfield area.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So went down there a few times for a Cubs game, and of course they get rained out every time I'm in the city. So.
Yeah.
Got to go to Sox games. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But there's a place up. I'm just outside of the Twin Cities, basically, and there's it's called Amsterdam Bar and Grill, and they do awesome fucking shows there. Everything from I've seen Spite there a handful of times, and Sound Effects and Oceano, all the way over to Wind in the Wave, and Sean James has done that show there on his solo tour. So,
Spite is like the most evil sounding vocalist I've ever heard in my entire life.
I don't know, man. Gosh. I don't know. After seeing Strangled, that band put heavy music into perspective for me. Like, I like Spite, and I've seen Spite, and I listen to Spite, and I know they're a violent band, but Strangled was just something else. That was another monster. Like, it's a bummer they're calling it quits. I'm sure they have their reasons. It's just like that was, I mean, what a way to go out. Like, what a bang to go out on. You know,
it's funny.
Crazy.
I've seen Spite 3-4 times and got to shoot the shit, briefly with Darius and a couple of them after the show, and how
nicest fucking dudes
they are.
Yeah.
Some of the nicest people you'd ever hope to meet.
Always.
Provided they're not on stage and swinging in every direction. But
right.
But speaking of the show, I mean, so going in, its first show in damn near 18 months, and you're not feeling at 100%. I mean, were you nervous? What's going through your head at that point? I mean, how do you
for me
in the mindset you need to be in for that?
Yeah, so for me, I just tried to fall back into my pre-show rituals, which I have vocal warm-ups that I do. Chris does the same thing. I usually do them about 30 minutes before I get on stage. I don't drink or smoke anything at least 2 nights before. So I make sure that everything is going well. I practice and play. I didn't really start feeling it until I was like on stage. Like, I didn't really start feeling it because as we were loading my gear on stage, I picked up my side of the cab too much, and my pedal board, I had everything stacked up. Like, I had my cab, my head, and then my pedal board, which was open and connected to everything. I fucking picked it up the stairs, and the pedal board just toppled over, spilled all my pedals all over the place. This is as we're loading on, and I'm just like, holy shit. Like, I was just like, perfect. Like, why not? Like, what? First show back in 18 months, why the fuck wouldn't this happen? And so I spent most of the time getting everything all set up and resituated, and it ended up being fine. But it didn't really occur to, like, the butterflies didn't really set in until we were loading on for me. Like, that's when it kind of set in for me, and I was able to look out over that crowd and was like, there's a shitload of people here. Like, this is a show. God damn. And like, as soon as the set kicked off, I was like, to me, it sort of was like back on the saddle type deal. I was like, all right, like, shake off the dust, get back at it. Maybe there's going to be some kinks that happen, or, maybe some things that were like, oh yeah, don't fucking do that. Or, oh yeah, remember to do that, whatever. For me, it was remembering to tune in between each song. that was kind of one of the bigger things for me to remember to do.
You mean every band doesn't have like 8 guitars lined up ready to go?
Yeah, right, yeah. And plus, too, we had a shorter set than we're used to, and we didn't want to, go over our time. We didn't want to.
So thankful for that.
Yeah,
Before I was like, oh man, obviously I want to be up there as long as I can. Day of though, I was like, oh thank God.
Yeah, and I didn't want to like, we didn't want to take up anyone's set time or anything like that. So, it was very like, hey, let's get through everything. Let's make sure it runs all smoothly. And for not doing a show in 18 months, for 3 out of the 5 of us being not feeling 100%, I think we crushed it. Like I think we did, as just as good of a job, that we could have. And I think every band was probably feeling a little bit of the same, like 18 months, plus for some bands. It was almost 2 years for some bands, and so it was just it was kind of something different. It was a good feeling. It felt good to be back.
Yeah.
It felt good to kind of hear the roar of that crowd. So yeah,
it was like that day in general was just kind of different. Like show days were always different, but it was like a different kind of different. Seeing like, I think the first person I saw was Kevin from Capital Vices. And it was, I haven't seen you in over a year, and like the only interaction we've had is us talking about like we both love baseball and like play the show on PlayStation. Like,
and these are people that
the only interaction
seen...
is like talking about like how's your guy doing? Like he's like, oh, I finally made it to the majors. And like my guy's still in AAA, whatever. And being able to like talk about like the show and like music and see like, oh, holy crap, there's Meredith and like there's John. And yeah, like it was wild seeing like friends that you hadn't seen in years in the environment that you're used to seeing them
and once, twice every month or two.
It was a weird like deja vu feeling, but like obviously like it was an actual deja vu. Yeah, it was just different for sure. It felt like a different kind of day in a good way.
How did it feel after the show? I mean, were you just riding the high after the show?
I was honestly I was kind of in my head because I knew I didn't sound as good as I could have if I wasn't sick. So it took me like a good hour or so to like pull myself out of that. But like I have great friends and like a great girlfriend, and they were very much there to like make sure that on a day that I was supposed to be like stoked and happy, that I was stoked and happy. So they did a good job of pulling me out of that headspace. And I still had like an amazing, incredible night and so much fun, and so happy to see all my friends and see all my friends kill it, and see like Victims that night really just like demolish the place with how amazing they were. Yeah, it was definitely like I had to find that high to ride it, but I did, and like that's what matters.
For me, at first, when I got off the stage, because again, our in-ear mix, I didn't like it. It didn't sound very good, in our in-ear mix. And I got off stage and was like, that wasn't it. That was not it. We have played way better than that. That was not it at all. And then again, kind of coming to find out, people were coming up to us and being like, not the case, dude. You guys slayed. Very, very well done. Mm-hmm. And so that, again, that sort of picked me up, and I was like, oh, really? Like did it sound okay? Like it, like all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, dude, like for real, you're over fucking thinking it. You're really too much in your head. And, I think that's kind of normal. Like we hadn't played a show in 18 months. Again, 3 of us had just kind of come off of being sick. And, so you kind of had this, like, there was this like sort of this down feeling, like kind of putting ourselves down and being in our own heads and being like, man, that we could have done way better. And, hearing other people come up, people that we didn't know. That it's one thing when your friends come up and say you guys killed it, but it's another thing entirely when people you don't know are like stopping you through the crowd and going, yo, that was insane. And I was like, all right, this is making me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
This is an interesting dynamic, again, being I'm the guy that doesn't have to be stressed out because I'm not performing, just here to enjoy the show.
Right.
It's almost like the crowd is like, what do we do here again? Like, pre-mosh here?
That's what I felt too. And like these are real. They're prescription. I have astigmatism and everything, so like I don't wear them when I play. My vision is very blurry, and like yeah, I couldn't see anybody really doing anything until everybody was doing stuff. Oh my gosh, I just elbowed my dog. Sorry. And uh I remember like looking up one song in and not feeling too confident about how I was doing, but still seeing people just like going at it and like two-stepping and crowd surfing, and me being able to like pull people on stage from crowd surfing so that they could stage dive and stuff. That was definitely like wow, holy shit, like people are getting into it and people are getting like back at it.
Yeah, that's when
like,
it felt good.
That's awesome. Yeah,
that's when it felt. For me, like the first song we opened up with, I think is a good opener because it's definitely not our heaviest song, but it's arguably one of our more. It's definitely one of our more melodic songs. So like people were bobbing their heads, like, yeah, this is good, this is good, this is good. And then the second song, Hesitation Anxiety, has a really nasty breakdown at the end of it, and actually has a nasty breakdown in the middle and at the end of it. And that's when people were like, fuck yeah, and just immediately started opening up. Bodies started coming up. Actually, there's a funny picture that somebody took. I think it was Jake Merchant that took this picture. Chris had just like pulled this kid who was crowd surfing, pulled him up off the crowd and down kind of onto the stage. And I was like, I don't know why I was going to come over and help. I don't know what I was going to do. I'm playing guitar. I don't know what I'm going to stop. And so I came over, but I'm like, both mine and Chris's face were both like, oh, like we're like, dude, like you could tell, like we were just so stoked about it.
That was a funny thing to get back into again, was getting the pictures back and seeing all the stupid faces we were making the whole set. Yeah. Like seeing like the candid moments that were captured of us. Yeah.
But well, during that show, speaking of the crowd surfing, the younger me, I'm 33 now, and the younger me wanted to go into the mosh pit. But the wisdom in me goes, you've had low back pain and hip issues for the better part of this year. Probably not a good idea. I'm like, yeah, okay, we're just going to park it at the back and have a good time. But during the Strangled set, when I can't think of his name, the taller guy, bald.
The Bronson-looking dude, the
when he picked up a surfer out of the crowd and walked 3 steps and threw him back into the crowd one-handed, like it was nothing. Like, holy shit! Yep, we're back.
Dude, that dude alone, I was like, you're terrifying. You're fucking terrifying. Holy shit! And those 2 vocalists are brothers. I didn't know that.
No shit.
Yeah, they're brothers.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
But so moving forward here, you got one more show under the belt now, finally, and you have another one coming up in August. When's that?
August 21st.
And where can people go to find tickets and stuff if they're down and can be in the Chicago area?
I believe it's if you go to the Bottom Lounge's website, they're going to have it there. You can go to the I don't know the actual
I think it's TicketWeb.
I think it is TicketWeb.
We also, on all of our socials, how there's like a targeted link at the top right under our bio. That link right now is for tickets to that show. So if you go on our Facebook, on our Instagram or Twitter, I think even our TikTok,
and it's all Erabella Band. Like it's like the same across the board.
Erabella.
Twitter is Erabella Band. Instagram is Erabella Band. Mm-hmm. Facebook is Erabella Band. Look up on our Facebook. It's on our events. If you go to our Instagram, the link is in our bio. Same thing with our Twitter. Anywhere there, go to the Bottom Lounge's website. Go to any of the other bands. Victims actually just got announced for our EP release show. They're playing as well.
Yeah, so we got a really great lineup. It's going to be Joyful, which is this amazing kind of like emo band. Then we have When We Was Kids. That's going to be more of like a Circa Survive Seos.
That band is one of my favorite local bands. They're fucking crazy.
Incredible. Then we have like our brother band, a band we've done a lot of stuff with, Speaking with Ghosts, and they're just like this incredibly tight metalcore band. Then Victims, and then the band actually that he talked about that had the name issue. Their name is Sorakai. They're this incredible pop punk band. So it's like a really solid. You get some heavy, some sad, some poppy, like a good diverse lineup.
I've found too that we've all been to the shows where it's like the same type of band, right? On like you get the same 5 bands to the point where at the end of the night you've like heard the same breakdown 3 or 4 times.
Just from different bands.
Yeah. And it's just kind of, and again, there's nothing wrong with that, if that's like what you're going for. But like, I've just kind of found, I used to book shows prior to the pandemic. I used to book shows, and, so I found that the best drawing shows and people would leave the shows feeling more fulfilled. And like they saw something really cool was when you had those mixed genre shows. When you get pop punk bands with death metal bands, with metalcore bands, with hardcore bands, and you get this diverse crowd, and you get people that exposed to new music. They're like, oh shit, I didn't know I would actually like that. That was pretty dope.
Yeah, Victims did a really good job. They got that Starletta.
Yeah, they did the same type of thing with this last show.
I was talking to him after his set. I'm like,
yeah, that was incredible.
Have a pop hip hop singer get mixed into a metal show, and his story and everything behind that. That was cool as hell.
Yeah, no, he was incredible. Super great.
For real.
Loved it. Yeah, that was amazing.
I thought for sure, I thought he was going to play Toto's Africa.
Yeah.
I thought that was coming. I was standing in the back like, I'm fucking ready for it, dude. As soon as you open up with it.
What else can we look forward to from you coming down the pipeline? So we're about halfway through 2021. What do you got?
Yeah. So we have that show coming up. We have the single that we talked about a bit earlier. That's going to be coming out around the same time, hopefully a little bit before that show. So we should have a new single coming out here in like a month with a music video. And it's great. It's definitely like it's one of our like an ass beater songs. So it's going to be on the heavier side. And we're still working on some more music as well to do more singles. It's going to be more of the like emo melodic stuff.
Yeah, as soon as we put out this heavy banger, we're going right back into the sad stuff.
Yeah, basically like new single, new show, more shows after that. And then we're going to figure it out from there.
Doing some shows in Minnesota, Twin Cities area, that would be.
Yeah. Hey.
That's kind of, so 2022 is kind of when we want to start doing
like hitting the rest of the Midwest.
Originally, what we were going to do is we were going to do, small runs, weekend runs, small tours around the Midwest and really kind of fortify the regional presence. So getting up there into Minnesota is absolutely on the chopping block.
Mm-hmm. And I pedal them too much. I should really figure out who to contact over there. But Amsterdam Bar Grill, it's in Lower Town, St. Paul area.
Heck yeah.
If you can do a show there, the Minnesota metal crowd is awesome. And
dude, send us the deets, man.
Yeah,
send us the deets.
But one last question for you here. For anyone that's listening, they're looking to start a band, or maybe they have a band, but they're trying to figure out the next steps for themselves, or like recording an album, getting a tour going, finding a manager, whatever the case may be. What kind of advice would you throw out for them?
Take everything very seriously. Do everything 100% and as professionally as you can. Like I know your friend with their little home studio is probably great, but nothing can replace the experience and the advice and the insight that a professional in any field of music can offer. So if you're looking to record an EP or an album, don't cheap out.
Spend the money.
Go save up, go to a professional. If you're looking to book a tour,
spend the money.
Find somebody that can help you out, that knows what they're doing and can keep you afloat while you're on that tour. Basically, whatever you're going to do, don't half-ass it.
I would say also too, to kind of piggyback off of that, know who your band members are, because not everyone is built for this life. Not everyone is built for the rock and roll. A lot of people think they are, but a lot of people aren't. A lot of people really don't know. And you sometimes find that out at a critical point when it's like, hey man, why didn't this come up sooner? So a lot of it is kind of getting a general idea of how serious, the rest of the band wants to take it.
Right. Basically like communicate.
Yeah. Figuring that type of stuff out, figuring out your sound, what you guys want to do. I mean, our biggest problem was that you had, for the longest time, we had 5 people being like, we want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be this, I want to do this. And, it caused kind of, this riff and sort of setback type stuff. So, take it seriously. You know, if you want to be serious, take it seriously. If you want to do jam bands and garage stuff, that's fine. But you know, you need to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Because if you got two guys that are like, we want to dump our lives into this, and then you got two other guys, three other guys, whatever, being like, nah, then you got to figure something out. You know, there's a lot of kinks to work out with being in a band. It takes a certain kind of person. You got to get along to go along. And, you know, just, yeah, I mean, if you're going to push, you got to push for it. You can't half-ass it.
Yeah. Just got to whole ass everything.
Whole ass everything.
That's got to be it.
Well, thank you again, guys. Appreciate you taking time.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for having us. This was awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you guys want to hang out for a bit, I'll share some details about the show and stuff coming up. So, otherwise, we'll catch you next time.